The subcommittees will come to order, and this is an important meeting of two subcommittees, the Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, Global Human Rights, and International Organizations, and Subcommittee on Middle East and North Africa. We are joined by our very distinguished chairwoman of that committee, who is also chairwoman emeritus of the full committee, and has been absolutely, with a laser beam focus, looking at issues pertaining to and related to Iran for the entirety of the last decade or more. So I want to thank her for her leadership. At our full committee hearing on Tuesday, full Foreign Affairs Committee, I asked Secretary of State John Kerry whether he had raised Pastor Saeed Abedini's release during the Iranian nuclear talks. I read him the following advance excerpt of the testimony of Naghmeh Abedini, wife of Pastor Saeed Abedini, who is our very distinguished witness this morning, and as we all know, who remains imprisoned and subject to torture in Iran. And this is what she said in pertinent part, and this is what I had read to the Secretary of State. Quote, "While I am thankful for President Obama's willingness to express concern about my husband and other imprisoned Americans in Iran," she said, during his recent phone conversation with Iran's President Hassan Rouhani, "I was devastated to learn that the administration didn't even ask for my husband's release when directly seated across the table from the leaders of the government that holds him captive." She went on to say, "My husband is suffering because he is a Christian. He is suffering because he is an American. Yet his own government, at least the executive and diplomatic representatives, has abandoned him. Don't we owe it to him as a nation to stand up for his human rights and for his freedom?" Secretary Kerry acknowledged that he had not done that. He had not raised it in the negotiations with the Iranians on the nuclear issue, confirming the awful report that Naghmeh had already heard. So as we speak, Pastor Abedini remains imprisoned in Iran, sharing a cell with violent criminals who have more than once surrounded Pastor Abedini as he tried to sleep, wielding knives and threatening his life. Pastor Saeed Abedini is an American citizen. He went to Iran last year to build an orphanage for Iranian children. He has been arrested in Iran before, but released and told he could enter and exit the country for humanitarian aid work if he agreed to cease pastoring house churches. As Pastor Abedini's wife, Naghmeh, will testify today, he accepted that proposal, but Iran did not uphold its end of the agreement. Pastor Abedini was arrested in July of 2012, imprisoned and tried for sharing his religious beliefs and thereby supposedly undermining the security of Iran. Imagine that. You share the good news of the gospel and you threaten the security of Iran. But even that he was not doing. He was there to establish an orphanage. He was denied contact with his attorney until just before the trial. The trial was not public, and he and his attorney were barred from participating in key portions of the trial, following which a judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. His appeals have been denied. In prison, he has been repeatedly beaten, denied medical care, and held in solitary confinement. While nuclear talks played out on the world stage, Iran moved Pastor Abedini to a prison notorious for housing the worst criminals in Iran. It's called Rajeh Shar. The very fact that Pastor Abedini was moved to a more dangerous prison than the one he was at previously was certainly dangerous itself, in the middle of the negotiations confirms that the Iranians recognized him as a potential factor in the negotiations. Since August of 2012, the U.S. has reportedly released 4 Iranians, including most recently a high-ranking scientist who were imprisoned in the U.S. for sanctions violations. Speaking for myself, I question whether these releases are unrelated to the nuclear talks. Were they allowed out in order to create a better atmosphere so the talks could go forward? And yet, American citizen Saeed Abedini remains in an absolute hellhole prison in Iran. The U.S. government must not waste another opportunity to secure the release of this brave and courageous father of 2 and devoted husband and a great pastor. His case needs to be front and center in the next round of U.S.-Iranian negotiations. Time is running out. Naghmeh, Rebecca, Jacob need their husband and father home, and they need him home now. I'd like to yield to the distinguished gentlelady. Mr. Higgins? Okay. Sure. To the chairwoman of the subcommittee, Ileana Roussel.